Okay, hi. Hi everyone. So if you can hear me and see me, do raise your hands. Okay, awesome. Thank you. You can lower your hands. There are 65 of you in class in the call. I see 50 of you are already on quizzes, so I will get started. All right. Okay, so we will move on with the next topic. We are left with probably just another 3 more topics right after this. Yeah. So today's topic is evidently quite important for many different reasons. Of course, for the reason that most of you want to know the most is whether if it's going to be reflected in your exam, it will definitely be within your exam. On the other hand, of course, understanding effects of technology and weighing out, balancing out in terms of how does technology affects all of us as users, as human beings in general as well. Yeah. So I think this is an area which goes a lot into many perspectives, different areas that you can actually consider. And sometimes because of what we do on a day-to-day basis, we may not necessarily pay enough attention to everything that happens around us, and especially more importantly, something that happens to us as well. All right. So this is the overall structure. We'll just kick off to talk about a bit in terms of technology and how was it before, how were things and how were tasks being carried out, and then of course after the introduction of technology, what happens then. There are many different categories of technology effects that we will run through. Speaking about effects of technology in general at the end of the day, and of course a quick conclusion towards the end. Yeah, as part of the learning outcomes. So there are 3 being identified here. So identify changes on human life before and after technology. So understanding that as a concept first. Second thing, define the effects of technology. Yeah, and of course the third one, list all effects on regarding technology mainly as well. So knowing in terms of what areas of technology effects that we are running through will be important, and that's why you see it here. So there are sociological effects, there are effects on the community at large, there are physical effects, there are also, of course, psychological effects as well. Yeah. So when you try breaking it down and you start to categorize them, one thing that I would like to highlight first is that you will tend to find that some can be overlapping. Yeah. Some physical effects may contribute towards psychological effects, or the other way around, psychological effects then affect your sociological aspects of your life. So they tend to be happening in that manner as well. All right. So a quick technology recap here is in terms of when we were defining technology right in the beginning of the semester, right? Machinery, devices, and not forgetting, of course, as part of the knowledge, the know-hows, and to use all of these and to combine all of these as a tool to basically help us. So evidently, technology has the capability to bring people together and to enhance these social abilities that we have, things that we could not do before, right? But as much as that is being said, I'm very sure a lot of us will agree that today there are adverse effects. There are the opposite effects that are taking place as well. Yeah. So I see Sing Chi and Daniel's hands are still raised. I'm just checking in case if you do have questions to ask. All right, so both of you have lowered your hands. So before technology, I think these 2 words are something that a lot of older generations will probably look at you, younger generations, and always like to say it, right? Can I see a show of hands? How many people older than you has reminded you what is it like before technology? Can I just see a show of hands? These people can be, of course, your parents. It can be your seniors. It can even be your friends. I guess some that you know of that will always talk about the times when technology was not around. Yeah, only 12 of you, really? I thought it would have been more, because there's quite a number of you in the call. How many people are we talking about? 16. So it's only about 1/3 of you probably. Okay, a bit more hands are going up now. So yeah, there's more than 20. No, it stops at 20. Okay, all right. Thank you. You can lower your hands. Now do take it with a grain of salt. Do take it in a way that I think it's important to just understand where things come from, right? When I say that, I always like to link it towards, there's a lot of debate and questions going around in terms of why in schools all over the world we must learn history. Yeah, why in schools all over the world, doesn't matter which country you come from, you need to learn about history. And again, the reputation that history subjects have all around the world are quite similar as well, I would like to say. It is probably being highlighted as one of the most boring subjects around. It is being highlighted as one of the most content intensive subject around, right? And you will always see that basically happening. But if you look at the perspective in terms of why learning about history can actually deliver a lot of lessons learned from your past, and then to see where do things come from, it does make a difference, right? And I think it's important to take that perspective in general. I think it's similar. If some of you remember, I think if I recall it correctly, it was in either one or in both of your tutorial classes, we have discussed before something as simple as understanding why in APU in general we have a dress code. In general, everyone who sees the rule will always react the same way at first, to then say that, oh yeah, it doesn't seem necessary. It feels like you're back in school. It feels like it is very unnecessary to do something at this point of time. All other universities don't really apply a dress code and so on and so forth. Yeah, but based on our discussion, then I think you would have at least gotten some messages behind why would that be important. So looking at this slide, I think it's simple and straightforward. It's just talking about how people were probably even more connected then, because the only way before technology that things could happen is that you have you need to connect with each other much better. The first point here highlights that people have mutual feeling with the nature. Yeah. So the main idea here is, of course, to then just highlight in terms of whether in terms of the relationship between people and nature has definitely changed a lot, right? They loved it, they treated it well, they enjoyed it, they grew up with it, and so on. Yeah. Then they were an actual part of nature per se. They did not need any special part of the day to be with it, as they were always with it, right? The most straightforward, simple way of looking at this is just how much time do you spend outside as a kid, for example, when you were growing up. Throughout your childhood days, how much of your time was really spent outside and being out in the environment, right? So I see Fatih as is saying that I still disagree with the dress code. Yeah, it's funny when you see it that way, because then you are being told about the dress code before you even register for the university. So I wonder, if this is something that you disagree about, then why in the world did you join APU? Yeah. It's as simple as it is a matter of choice in the beginning, yeah, and especially for our international students, there's so many countries that you could have chosen to go to in order to do your degree. And I think when you choose Malaysia, and again, a lot of other private universities in general are available there, and yet you choose APU, and then you come here and then you say, hey, well, I don't agree with the dress code. Okay, all right, something for you to think about, and something for all of us to reflect about as well. Not meant as something that is supposed to be saying that it is your fault, but I'm just saying that we have been very upfront in terms of what the dress code is like in the university. And I think everyone here is the last people to complain when most of your classes are online now. Anyway, so 2 more points highlighted here before technology is communication was wonderful, because people used to write to each other. They had to wait for replies, right? I'm very sure your generation did not go through this. I got to go through this a bit in the beginning. That is, of course, something whereby I have initiated and wanted to do it as well. This was probably about 20 years ago. about 25 years ago, when writing to each other, having pen pals is a thing of something then, whereby you will just get random contacts and information from either newspapers or magazines of people who are saying, "Hi, I'm so and so. I'm from this part of the world. Write to me. Send this to my address, and I would like to know you." Right? And you will, it is that random. So I just chose random people that I see from this classified area of the newspaper or magazine, and I reach out to them and I write to them and I write a letter, put a stamp on it, and send it over. And this was something that was definitely happening a lot then. Yeah. Sometimes the reason, of course, made them to be whoever they are today, right? Before technology, different types of skill sets had to be developed prior to technology. Because of technology now, there are a lot of skill sets that has gone to be that has been deemed as something to be quite useless per se, because then technology has replaced it because you don't require those skill sets anymore. Okay, all right. So Fatih is saying, I actually didn't know about the dress code up until orientation. Oh, wow. Okay, all right. I'm not sure who is your counselor, but as far as I'm aware of, all of our counselors will always be very upfront with the students, because especially for our international students, we need to tell you to prepare to come to the university when you come to the country as well, right? You need to prepare with some form of your semi-formal clothing so that you don't end up coming to the university in shorts and sandals. But anyway, that aside, too bad for you, yeah, Fadi. I guess this is one of those wrong decisions that you have made in life, and well, life can be such. So I'm just sharing this as a link to then show you in terms of, so there can be a lot of resources that you can look around and to see how things were like. To be fair, well, there is some form of technology that is still in place. But there are many different ways of when you look at a situation that it can be very, very different. Yeah, it can be very, very different. It is reflective of how things used to be, but of course, with the conversion into what we have today, it did basically have a lot of implications towards how things work as of today anyway. Yeah. All right. So one of the first areas that we would just want to explore is, of course, in the beginning when technology started taking over. I always like to use that word. When technology started impacted our lives and so on and started emerging, many areas that were impacted mainly by it. So as highlighted a few here: communication, industries, household appliances, a lot of where technology first initiated. Yeah. People got the rhythm, they got onto it, they get used to it. There was of course a lot of issues of trying to understand technology and trying to use it. Similar until today. I think we are all still struggling in a certain sense when it comes to certain technologies that we use. Yeah. But as you will see, gradually they started to change. The time they spend with the nature is of course now all focused in terms of technologies that we have around us. People got the turn with the technology in the early 90s. Nature remained same, but not for long. Yeah. So the nature, of course, is being highlighted here is the environment that we are trying to refer to. So a 90s kid, probably I don't think I fall into a 90s kid category. But from a 90s kid perspective, of course, there's time with toys that you have, which are all mostly physical toys. Some which are electronic based as well. The TV is also reflected there. But kids today, of course, in terms of the access that you get into and so on and so forth, there is a lot of demand further in terms of what these devices and what these electronics are supposed to basically do for you. Yeah. We understand, of course, I think we all understand that generationally it can be very different. But when it comes to the essential skill sets that someone should have, yeah, a certain level of skill sets, that should not change. That should not change. For example, when it comes to you just remembering something, remembering facts, remembering certain level of information, right? That when you have so much access to information today, the expectation is that you will basically tend to understand more and remember more. But that has gone the opposite, right? If you notice, maybe someone from the 90s could actually remember and do a lot of things better because technology and Google and the search engine was not existent then. But in comparison to a kid today, because everything is at your fingertip, all the information is widely available, this has become something that all of us take for granted. And I'm saying this not just saying that you are doing it, I'm doing it as well. I've mentioned this as an example before in terms of just something as straightforward as me trying to remember maps and trying to remember directions and where and how on how to get somewhere. But my brain is automatically just deleting every single memory that I have about maps today, because I know when I get into my vehicle, I'm just going to switch on Waze, or I'm just going to switch on Google Maps, and it takes me exactly where I need to go with additional information that I would have not known. For example, there's a traffic jam and so on and so forth and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but again, if you're evaluating in terms of certain types of skill sets, a 90s kid, of course, may be required to find information, and it may not be widely accessible, and they may have very limited information. But students today, with all of the information that you have available, are you then necessarily much better at looking for information? Are you much better at filtering through information and finding the right information, for example? You will need to ask yourself this question. I'm very sure some of you will still say, well, with all this available, I am still not good at looking for information. I'm still not good at obtaining the right information for the right purpose. Yeah. So as far as saying, I miss yo-yos, I regret not learning to use it when it was popular. Oh, all right. I'm not sure what's stopping you from using it now. It is still available. Yeah, you can still find it. So yes, it's positive. Sorry for the misspelling there. I didn't notice that from before as well. Surely these things are positive. Through them, effects on our lives, on bad ways, in some ways, in many different ways as well. Yeah. Not forgetting that without technology, there are many different aspects that we'll be losing out as well. Yeah. As much as we are highlighting about how technology has affected those different parts of our lives. For most of us who are probably living in the current context and environment today, this is something that is not surprising anymore. Yeah, I've asked many people before, if you have a bunch of people who stays in the house, have you texted each other? And I think easily about 80 to 90% of people will always say yes. You are probably just in two different rooms, but you would have rather texted each other simply for the sake of it. Yeah, there are many different reasons behind it. That it's probably easier and just texting a roommate or a housemate of yours and say, hey, so what's for dinner, and all of you are still in your respective rooms, instead of just coming out and speaking and talking about it. Yeah, all right. So when we are trying to evaluate all this, right, and we're discussing about all this as an effect at the end of the day, do you see this as something that is a bit more straightforward on whether technology is considered necessarily something good or something bad? Or the third option here, as you can see, I have no strong feelings one way or the other. Yeah. So the technology is good or bad, or basically you are just a neutral in between and you don't see them being good or bad. So I think most of you are already responding. I'm leaving the timer on anyway because I do not want to spend too much time here waiting. Sorry to those of you who were not able to answer in time. But well, the majority here is quite clear. 27 of you did say that, yeah, technology can be good and it depends on how you use it as well, right? 2 of you does say technology is bad. And then again, it depends on, in the spectrum that you're looking at technology, it depends on which area you're looking at. And interestingly, there are 16 of you who then sits on the fence and to say that because technology can be good or bad, then you may not necessarily have an opinion towards one or the other, which is totally fine as well, right? So this when I was first exposed to this line and this statement by Albert Einstein himself, I did not truly agree with him. Yeah, I did not truly agree with him. To then say that, well, people don't kill people, technology kills people. But of course, if you look at his actual line, I feel the day that technology will surpass our human interaction, the world will have a generation of idiots. Of course, then you will need to take this statement of his with some context. Yeah. The statement at the bottom that says people don't kill people, technology kills people. In many ways, I would have to say it all starts with the user. It all starts with the people. It all ends with the user as well, right? So from the start to the end, we are still talking about the people. Technology is a mean. Technology is something that is supposed to be an enabler in between, right? So that can then reflect very differently across. So Jamil says in the chat, yeah, so it depends on how you use it in many different ways, right? So in terms of his statement, if you remember earlier of being an idiot, for example, there will just be when technology surpasses human beings and technology is the focus and the forefront of everything, we are probably not necessarily creating people who are smarter. We are probably creating people who are not as smart, is what Albert Einstein is trying to say. Do you think so? Do you feel so? No? Oh wow! All right. So a lot of you, at least there's half of you, since there's 37 here. 37 of you said yes, that you do agree with Albert Einstein, and of course there are 10 of you who then says no. So his idea, Albert Einstein's idea behind it is to then say that when technology is always being used in the forefront, when technology is always being put as a priority, that's where the focus on people reduces. And when focus on people reduces, where does it come a need in terms of the people wanting to do better, because then the technology can get certain things done for them. Okay, so as part of the technology effect that we are looking at today, as you can see here, technology affects various areas, right, which have caused its surroundings to change in many different ways. The focus is based on areas which are to determine the future of the world today. So why are there certain areas of where technology effects are being looked at a bit more? Because then that's where the money is, that is where the future is, and that's why there's a lot of focus there, right? The third point, as you can see here, each effect will contribute to the attainment of a specific goal. However, these effects will also result in unexpected consequences. Speaking about the car that we have, about automobiles that we have spoken about before, is the same thing there as well, right? The unexpected consequences comes along with it, and whenever you look at something on a long-term basis as well, it will definitely make a difference. Yeah. So there are many different areas here that we are about to briefly go through most of them, right? What are the effects of technology on the environment? What is the effects of technology for the rate of change? How has technology made changes and disruption much more at a higher rate today? Perceptions of reality. This is a very old topic, but it has been revived recently, right? With many different, with newer findings, with newer technological findings as well. Mutual dependence. So how much do you depend on technology is also being looked at as an effect. The information and technology gap. Yeah. So technology has been progressing very well, but did the level of information that we have as a user improved along with it, or did it become worse? Right? So the idea here is that to say that there is actually a slight gap in between information and technology. And of course, not forgetting production of goods and services that we have today are all, a lot of those areas are having a huge thanks towards technology overall. So in terms of the environment, the first effect that technology had on the environment is definitely negative. Yeah, it's because of the negative effect that technology had on the environment. That's why now there is a lot of technologies that is being created to try to either reverse this effect or reduce the effect, right? So throughout many researchers, of course, these are not necessarily cited, but there are many different various researchers research that has been conducted to talk about how acid rain is affecting certain parts of the world today. Pollution from nuclear testing, this is quite evident as well. Chemical content in rivers, streams, and even in the ocean. Diversion of water from natural resources feeds town and city, only to create shortages elsewhere. Yeah. So like if any one of you are more interested in environment and you have seen documentaries on YouTube, I'm quite sure you will definitely be surprised, right? Especially with the more recent one. I think it's called what was it called? Seaspiracy on Netflix. That was very, very controversial. Yeah. If some of you who have seen that, you will probably be surprised with certain things that they have revealed, yeah, in terms of what has been done, how certain efforts currently being taken up is considered to be protecting the environment, but on the other hand, is not exactly doing what it was promoted to be, yeah. So there's many different environmental effects that comes from technology. On the other hand, would you be able? What other areas can you identify? Right. So this is something good that you will need to start exploring into, because even if this is being asked in your exam, for example, yeah, you may not just want to look at that slide that you saw before, remember it, you keep memorizing it, the same thing again and again. It's better that you understand the context. And if I'm asking about any other, when a question comes up like that, you are able to relate to the examples instead, rather than just thinking about, oh wait, what's written in the slide? Oh yeah, acid rain, and write acid rain, right? And that is not necessarily the best way to learn something. It's better that you understand the context of, okay, let's just look at negative effects of the environment. And when you sit back and when you start thinking, that's where you work the wheels of your brain. Yeah, it's not just about then regurgitating and just drawing from some information that you recall from the slide. All right, that's 11 of you. I think that's good enough for me to go about with. So Excel says, I'm assuming you are saying climate change, not climax change. Pollutions, everything has become artificial and less natural. With the environment, would you say that environment, there's a lot of artificial aspects in the environment? Interesting. Land pollution, Kai Feng says no idea. Very surprised by this answer. No idea if there's any other negative effects that technology has on the environment. Goes to say, in terms of how much are you even thinking of when it comes to thinking of the negative effects? Yeah. Global warming from air conditioners, good point by Jesse. Oh, very good point by Junyu, right? Digital or electronic waste. See, things that we are all involved with, things that you are all related to, but you don't think much of it, right? Like, how much batteries do you think you have used in your lifetime? Where have all these batteries gone to, right? Similar point by Kasing, climate change, nuclear waste in water bodies, again, that's very evident. Sound pollution, resource depletion, soil pollution, human interaction by obvious pollution. All right, okay. So a lot of you are highlighting pollution other than, I'm assuming, other than the nuclear one that you saw earlier as well. Yeah. New pollutions will occur, damage of habitat, sea pollution, oil spill in the sea. All right, okay. Discarded technology results in pollution. Yeah, again going back into talking about e-waste as well. Yeah. So thank you to the 30 of you who has responded. I only saw now, Shahmi said, people create technology, technology kill people. Therefore, people are killing people. Okay, all right. Trying to connect that as much as possible. Asfar then comes in and say, I guess a few years in the future, if people end up living in the same world as the Lorex, artificial trees would be a negative effect. Huh. Well, that depends on whether everyone, if in the context of what Asfar just mentioned, it depends on whether you have watched Lorex or not. Yeah. Okay, so second point is to look into rate of change. Now, technology has definitely spearheaded, I would use that word. That means because of technology, we have seen a lot of these areas change very drastically, right? You see all of the listed items here: transportation, communication, industry, marketing, information, technology affecting the technology itself, right? It's as simple as, I think the smartphone easily looks at this particular area, whereby when you have created a specific model for this year, right? The change that is expected for the model next year, when you are releasing yet another model, is highly being affected towards what have you actually provided this year. All right. So it's as simple as with every new phone that is being released, you will definitely see a newer processor being put into it. You will definitely see an increase of the RAM speed that goes along with the mobile. You will see better cameras. You will see not just better cameras, you will see more cameras, because apparently 1 or 2 cameras on your phone is not enough anymore. There must be 3, there must be 4, and there must be a telephoto lens, there must be an ultra wide lens, there must be a macro lens, and that list doesn't stop, right? And this rate of change is evidently there because of how technology has affected it, right? The technology is, of course, also evidently there for you to then incorporate into your products, right? So a quick one when you run through this list is, I just wanted to hear from you, yeah? And I think this is a new function on quizzes I just wanted to try out. Now, when you look at Zoom view, when you look at, oh no, not this. All right, I thought I would have been able to see the image here. So what you are seeing now on your screen is just an image of a graph, right? Okay, what I want you to try figuring out is to see, what do you think is the technological rate of change towards transportation? Yeah, is it a very flat line? Transportation did not change that much. A lot of people were talking about flying cars in 2020, but then it didn't really happen. But on the other hand, if you choose some other examples, you can then say that the rate of change for transportation by technology has changed a lot. Therefore, your line will basically be much more steeper per se. Yeah. So I just want you to draw the line on how much do you think transportation has changed due to technology. Yeah. How much do you think transportation has changed due to technology? I see 12. Once we hit about 20, I think I'll just take a quick view in terms of what all of you have submitted. Okay, we're there. Responses view. Oh my. How come am I still seeing pollution here? That's weird. Oh wow. Okay, this is a combination by everyone, of course. So let's see. That is quite a steep change. Lip Hao is saying. Yeah, I think Winky's one is the one that the word came through just now. So Jesse showed a much more lower a line there. Wei Huan is saying, oh, so Wei Huan is saying there's a lot of changes in the beginning, but now it looks like it's slowing down, which is the opposite of what Aiden just did. Aiden is saying that is the other way around, that transportation changed very little in the beginning, but now is changing much more. Heidi is similar to Wei Huan. Kai Feng is similar as well. Jason as well. I'm not sure why Yuan Ming drew his like that. So what do you mean, Yuan Ming, that is slow, fast, slow, fast? Slow, if I'm not mistaken, this line
technology not change very fast, so slow and fast.
Could you repeat that?
Because not every technology change very quick, so they are change the meaning time, so it's very slow that because they are slow and then suddenly change, and at the slow suddenly change. So I draw like
that. Okay, all right, understood. So Jun Yu's one looks like he was drawing halfway, then he stopped and he decided to draw another one again. And interestingly, this looks like the S-curve in terms of our technology life cycle. But again, would transportation necessarily reflect the same way there? Yeah. Okay, so Johnson one has an interesting. I wonder which year is this that suddenly have a direct line going upwards. Who else? So Edric is that, Ayas is that, Uzma is similar to someone earlier as well. So what is the other view that I have? This is something new to me, I'm trying out as well. So Zoom view is this. And then there is the responses view. This is just my participants view, but anyway. All right. Let me just quickly scroll through this. Oh, wow, Elvis. Again, a very steep one towards the end. So as you can see here, right, there's a lot of different lines that all of you are mentioning in terms of how technology for transportation has changed, right? The rate of change towards transportation. So the closest one to the answer in general, yeah, we're not talking about any specific transportation, we're talking about transportation in general, is I think I saw, if not mistaken, I saw Edric's answer just now, which is similar to even like what Jesse is mentioning as well. Yeah. Hide all zoom view. Okay. Yeah. Whenever if you do ask experts about this, they will say transportation did not change drastically. Yeah. Is it still running on fuel today? Yes. On top of course, we are running it on batteries today and so on and so forth. But that would not be considered a major change. Are they still on four wheels? Yes. Are they still something that requires roads to run on? Yes. So that's why you wouldn't say that. Yeah, but then there are still changes. Yeah, similar to what Edric has drawn here. There are still changes, obviously, as I've just highlighted a few. They don't necessarily run on fuel anymore. Some runs on battery. Driverless cars are available today, right? So there are advances, there are changes as you go when it comes to transportation. Okay, thank you. I'm very glad a lot of you responded to this. There's a few more of these kind of questions, so please be ready for the next one. Instead of transportation, now we look at what is the technological rate of change for communication. Yeah, how would you say communication has changed now with technology? Do you think that there is lesser change? Do you think that there is a lot of changes? Do you think that there is almost no changes? Communication is still taking place the same way. You will still need to know language properly. Can you not understand? Do you don't even need to understand a certain language to then converse in it or to communicate in it? I will leave it to you for you to then see, for you to then decide on whether this is something that you feel has that rate of change. Yeah. All right, 20 coming in already. So from the responses view, I can see, all right, I think this one in particular, mostly are agreeing that there is a much more higher rate of change. Yeah. Interesting one by Jason here, who then says that, yes, it has the technological rate of change towards communication for technology was a lot in the beginning, but he's saying now that it is actually very flat. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's flat, but well, there are requirements in terms of how you communicate, right? There are certain aspects of changes in terms of how you communicate. I'm not sure if this is Shami. Explain this, please. What in the world is this, Shami? And it looks like I'm not getting any responses for now. Uzma is showing this. Okay, all right. Which I thought was very similar to earlier, the technological rate of change for transportation as well. So Elvis has something very similar to, I think, Jordan earlier as well. Wow, for Zunho, even the graph is not enough. He has to go more than the graph. All right. Anyone else? Interestingly, Pritisha is saying, well, it has just been changing very stably, but changing the way we communicate. Yeah. Now, always remember, whatever your answers are, justifying it. Yeah, justifying it becomes even more important. Meaning, why do you feel so? Why do you think that is the rate of change when it comes to the way that communication has changed due to technology? All right. So overall, I would still say that it has a flatter line, but not as flat as transportation. Yeah, it is definitely higher than transportation. Earlier, I showed you Edric's answer earlier where the line is very low, right? It's very flat. Here for communication, I will increase the line to go a bit more steeper. So the ones of you, like I think I saw Pritisha earlier, Jai as well. So this is where I will definitely place it at as well. Now, what do I mean by that is the rate of change here for communication is at that line because technologically there is a lot of ways on understanding that when you communicate through writing with technology is different. When you communicate through audio and video through technology is different, and then there needs to be some form of change as a user for you to incorporate, right? In order for you to adopt and to adapt to it. Yeah. So the line will be a bit more steeper than that, rather than the transportation, which is basically lower. Okay. Yeah, Ibrahim's. Oops, sorry. You all. Ibrahim's line is also quite relevant as well, right? So the way we communicate did not change that much at the end of the day, right? You're still using language to communicate, but of course, the ability with technology that technology has brought along in terms of translations, in terms of making communication faster and quicker, rather than looking at all those aspects. Okay, I'm not sure whose answer is this that has the was that 2002 on top? Who did that? Whose answer was that with the 2000? Hassan, what does this mean? 2200. What were you trying to write? Are you stuck in 2200? Oh, you mean in 2200 in terms of the years, is it? So it's 2022 now. So 2200 will be another 178 years to go. I'm assuming that's what you're trying to say. All right. Okay. Good. Awesome. Moving on. I'm not sure if this one is something I want to do. Hold on, yeah. Don't start drawing yet. I want to check first whether I want you to do this or not. Industry, I will skip. Industry, I think all of us agree that in terms of industry, the rate of change is definitely much more higher because the use of manpower has been reduced a lot. For marketing, yeah, marketing, go ahead. Kasing has already submitted. What did Kasing submit? Empty, no. Zoom view. I wonder if this is really a line that Kasing believes in. So it slowed down and suddenly there's a lot of change in terms of how marketing has taken place. Now for marketing, to be honest, the line should be, oh my God. Vivian, explain this, please. This doesn't make sense. So Vivian needs to make it make sense. Vivian, microphone on. What does this mean?
I mean, so sometimes the market goes up and goes down, right?
The market goes up and goes down. What do you mean by that? So I'm not sure if Vivian got the question correctly. This is talking about marketing, yeah, marketing efforts. As you can see, advertisements, right, relating to promotion and sales. That's what marketing is about. Okay, all right. So if you're talking about markets, like what Vivian has mentioned, then I understand why you draw it that way, but it doesn't make sense for marketing anyway. Interestingly, quite a number of you who are also going towards a flatter line of understanding how that works out. All right, so for marketing, I would easily, what Lip Hao did here would be similar to what I would say it is. Yeah. In terms of marketing, there's so many different ways on how marketing is happening today due to technology. Yeah. Look at how personalized marketing can be now. It was never that personalized, right? Marketing used to be something whereby you target a profile and then a profile in terms of what kind of customers that you're looking for, and then you promote it to all of them. But nowadays, you notice it can be very, very customized, right? So to me, the changes were a lot happening in relation to that. Okay, all right. Some interesting points here. Uzma, you are saying recently there is a drastic change towards marketing? Is that what you're saying?
Not really. I thought that would be the most convenient line, in my opinion.
The most convenient line. I'm still wondering what does that mean.
As in, like, it was the most sensible one to draw at that moment. But now that you explained that there were drastic changes in marketing with technology, now I get it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone. I shall move on. So when we look at the rate of change, so you have to understand that technology has assisted a lot of things that we do around us to change. Some can be slowly, some can be drastically, some is mediocrely general changes across as you go and advances and so on and so forth. Yeah. So when it comes to the perception of reality, so rate of change is done. That is one of the effects we were looking into. Perception of reality. So if you guys, if everyone looks at it here, there is a separate perception of reality as we understand it today, right? You are not just bound towards the reality you have, the physical reality you have around you. You are now realizing that there can be almost zero boundaries between what is real and what is virtual, right? The point in blue here highlights a lot about what we are going through today. Comfortable in the virtual communities of a computer network as it is in real communities. Yeah. The number one, my go-to example is always with, well, we are a university at the end of the day. We have about 400 staff members here. I have gone through, I remember at one period of time, I have gone through communicating with another staff member in the university for about 3 years, and we have never met each other. Yeah, but we liaise a lot with each other through emails. We liaise a lot with each other through Teams and so on and so forth, but we have not, and we have never met each other. Yeah, and again, does it work in that way? It does work. We both get the work done that we needed to when we are contacting and communicating with each other, and therefore this is the other perception of reality whereby you don't necessarily need to be in a physical reality with other people around you, right? Simulations are to be applied to visualize what the real conditions are like, and creation of a digitalized world provides a platform for newer and more advanced technologies, right? So based on this last and final point alone, I wanted to ask everyone. So as we all know, not a lot of events can take place nowadays. I know a lot of students of your generation who always used to go for rave parties. You always go for your interest in EDM and so on and so forth, and in terms of rave is definitely there. But if now it goes online, will you possibly pay for an event as such? Yeah. So what type of online virtual event do you feel is worth paying for to attend? So interestingly, Jin Yan, Wei Huan, as well as Rick all said a concert, right? I am assuming you won't be paying as much as you would pay if you were to be there physically, right? Saan, what is this? I am not fluent enough in terms of what you all are saying. I'm sorry, at least in terms of what you are saying, Saan. What is this about?
It's webinar.
I can't hear you, sorry.
It's webinar, sir, webinar.
What is that about?
About universities offering webinar.
Oh, so that's basically
Yes,
an issue with your spelling. All right, okay, so you're talking about webinars. All right.
Yes,
Virtual Run Johnson is saying, yep, I think that has worked out quite well for the organizers who are doing it now. In Malaysia, this is very popular. You do a virtual run, you just clock in, you just clock in the distance that you have ran, you send it back to the organizers. Organizers give you a medal, gives you a t-shirt, gives you some freebies, some merch, some merchandises, and that is evidently happening now, which probably everyone thought it wouldn't be very popular before. Apple event, Jamil says, a very staunch Apple supporter, I see. Workshop, something that can help you make money. Mark Zuckerberg metaverse event. Nothing. So Muhammad is just saying he will not pay for any virtual event. There's nothing virtually that you feel is worth paying for. Fan meets, interesting. Heidi is mentioning this can be ideas. Yeah, this can be quite good ideas for even either companies or products, organizations to take into consideration to see what would generally people pay for. So Fathi is also together with Muhammad to say nothing. Interesting webinar, nothing really. Concert. A lot of you are mentioning concerts. How interesting is that? Game tournaments, which I think they're all going on, right, Elvis? I'm quite sure they're all available now when it comes to online gaming, especially. Zoom games, all sorts. I feel like learning a course on subject or topic, we are already paying for online classes for schools too. Yep, So online courses have always been there, even prior to how the situation is now anyway. Okay, fundraisers, workshop, metaverse. Thank you very much for your responses there. So perception of reality, as you can see, it is bringing what you used to experience physically now to the virtual world. Compared to those of you who said you won't pay for any virtual event, I think the majority is still saying that you wouldn't mind, right? Online courses, webinars, concerts, workshops, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So mutual dependence is then highlighting about in terms of the mutual dependence of technology among itself is the first point here, right? Does technology depend on each other? I think we all agree that there is definitely an effect that certain technologies has affected other technologies. For example, with the amount of devices we have now, all of our devices are very dependent on the internet technology. Yeah, correct. We used to come from a time whereby 1 megabyte internet line is sufficient, or a 2 megabyte line, or a 5 megabyte or 10 megabyte line is sufficient. But you notice that it's not anymore today, right? So that dependence of technology on each other also helps to affect each other as well, right? Technologies are dependent on each other to function and therefore create that chain of reaction in order to support each other. Of course, along the lines, when you look at that, the users are evidently involved. Yeah, the users are evidently involved in between, because then the effect that this chain reaction has on each other will basically affect on how you will then get to use the technology itself. All right. Okay, all right. So I think I saw something from Shahmi earlier. In 2200, we're going to have the Millennium Falcon. I seriously doubt it. Is the Bitcoin graph? No, sorry, the Dogecoin, not Bitcoin. Apparently, you can own virtual real estate. So Muhammad is not apparently anymore. You can. Yeah, you can. What Metaverse is or Horizon is actually promoting now, it was not something that did not exist before, to be honest. Yeah. So I highlighted this a bit earlier just now to talk about there is a gap. Technology has now created a gap in terms of how information basically is being transferred. Yeah. So what are the areas that's being highlighted here? So it shows here that the gap here is between different levels or even generations of the information stage of development. Yeah. So there's a lot of times when certain processes are taking place. Technology has then pushed them towards the processes being done differently, and therefore that creates a gap. This is something we will discuss in next week's topic as well when we talk about business and technology, right? There's always a huge question in terms of should the business process follow the technology because the technology has shown that there's a certain way of it to be done, or should the technology always follow how the business works, right? So there's always that gap there to then see how do you balance that out as much as you can. So the main effect here would be for the varying levels of technology applied for different industries, right? So different industries are affected differently as you look at as well. And within those industries, different levels. So the yellow box here explains the different levels. When you talk about the level for production, for management, for communication, telecommunication, all of them are then being impacted differently in terms of the amount of information that you require. Yeah. So this can actually create the gap currently is then due towards information is always trying to keep up with technology, which is a weird thing, right? Which is a weird thing because then it used to be before where technology is always keeping up with information. Yeah, because there's an abundance of information, technology is always trying to come in and try to segregate them properly, to categorize them properly, to manage them properly as you go, right? But that is not evidently always happening. We shall skip this question for now. So last but not least is the production of goods and services. So in this manner, I think we are all agreeable that this has the rate of change for production of goods and services and the effect that technology has on them has definitely changed a lot, right? The growth is basically is changing together with the demand for the goods and services, right? Look at what the pandemic has done to the whole world. When there is a huge spike and demand for certain types of goods and certain types of services that is available around the world, the availability of manpower has been affected widely as well. Automation, the cost structure, the value chain. Look at vaccine production in the world today, right? And how that has been impacted a lot due to technology. How much more quickly that vaccine production could have taken place in comparison to how long vaccine production would have taken typically, right? All right, so before we go into the positive effects for these 4 areas, let's take a quick break. Yeah, and we will come back in 10 minutes. Let me just get this up and running. All right, see everyone in 10. right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Do raise your hands if you can hear me and see me. Okay, thank you. You can lower your hands. All right, so we start looking at the different effects. Of course, in this case, it's probably more of the positive effects that technology has on these four main areas. All right, so the first one obviously is with community life overall. So as you will see here, how many of you think that you can survive 24 hours without a cell phone? Right, so you can answer it here. How easily can you survive without your mobile phone for 24 hours? And what will you do to fill up your time instead? So I'm just leaving this for you to quickly answer it. I'm not going to stop the timer. A lot of you are on the same page. Oh my God. It sounds like you're going to waste your 24 hours just like that, yeah? Oh my goodness. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Camping in the forest, sleep, sleep, eat and sleep, spend time with people. Thank you. Thank you finally for a much more, I would like to say a much more humane example of at least now you realize, okay, now I have to spend time with people. Even though I guess a lot of you may go against Heidi by saying, well, with technology, I was spending time with people, but now without technology, you can still do so. Sleep easily and do my hobbies instead. Sleep, side hobbies, I cannot. And then sleep. All of you will just sleep for 24 hours. Don't you think that's quite a waste of time, you know? So for community life, as you will see, the influence as it is here has made things a lot more different, right? Overall, in terms of how communities grow together, how communities communicate with each other, right? There's a reason the word communicate and community starts off with the same letters as well, because then that is what it is supposed to basically represent. Yeah. So Shahmi says sleep is life. Oh, well, interestingly. So talking about communities and community life, all right. Here's another quick question as well. Oh, apparently not so quick. I didn't adjust the timing for this. Metaverse will soon replace daily life physical routines. So what do you think? The whole idea behind Metaverse, if some of you do not know about it yet, I would suggest for you to go and read up about it. But it's basically forming a much more real life virtual community, and you will get to do things that you normally do in the physical life to then move it over officially over to the virtual world. A lot of movies, some movies that you have seen probably will reflect of something as such. Yeah, and with the first 10 of you responding, looks like it's good. Jesse is replying with a huh. Interesting, but we may lose touch with humanity. It depends on what you're looking at as well. Good, awesome, more likely to. I hope it doesn't. Ishwar is coming in to say that. Anime, okay, yeah. So if, again, you can reflect and to see some of this has been reflected across, yeah? And a lot of online gaming environment that a lot of you are in has also made it very similar towards how Metaverse will basically work as well. Lazy people will become lazier, interestingly. I thought that was not possible. I prefer the real world. No one wants to wear a VR headset 24/7. Yeah, but when you look into it, it's not exactly something that is given to you as a choice at this point of time. Yeah. So for all of you who have seen, of course, Ready Player One, I think you will probably easily get an idea in terms of what the Metaverse will end up being like. Cool, no problem. Amazing. Real world is better. As much as some of you are saying, I prefer real world and so on and so forth. Jamil says yes. Yes to what? I ask, what do you think? And then you say yes. Very cool. It does look like the majority is for it and the minority is against it. Yeah, I will end this here. Real world is more, yeah, it's nice. Prefer the real world. Real world is more enriching. So again, it really depends on what angle and perspective we are looking at it in terms of that. Yeah. Effects of technology towards work. I think this is something that as students you can definitely relate to as well. A lot of things that you do now as part of you being a student will also be quite similar when you do it in relation to work. Improves communication, encourages innovation and creativity, thinking out of the box, improving management of many different aspects, not just human resource management, but you managing your work, you managing the data that you have as well. Creating mobility, right? Because as we all know, in terms of telecommunication, is also a positive effect over, for work. Effects of technology for health, right? So there's so many here, from saving time, coordinating, and of course, in terms of you to better manage all of the data that you have. There's a lot of non-invasive procedures, right? If you notice, there used to be very invasive procedures that always require open surgery and so on and so forth. But because of how technology has advanced, we could avoid all of that. A much more accurate diagnosis, right? Biotechnology, as we have discussed before, has allowed for this to happen much better. There are much more better instruments today. MRI technologies are gaining so much more insights rather than opening you up physically to find out what's going on inside. And all those can be done prior to a surgery happening. Yeah, so health is also, again, quite straightforward. Communication, of course, overall, in this case, is being shown to you on a business perspective, right? So product launches has become much more easier. Information being given to you is much more clearer and in-depth for you to understand how their product works. Product service, social interaction with the customers, teleconferencing overall as well from a business perspective. With everything going online, with online shopping, for example, has definitely allowed communication to become much better. Yeah. So this, in relation to the vision for Metaverse, so this comes directly from Facebook themselves. When Mark Zuckerberg first announced it at the end of February in terms of what it is supposed to do, I would suggest for you to refer to this particular website. For overall what Metaverse is meant to do, they have identified a few areas, right? So the main platform itself, in terms of then looking at how messenger calls will change, looking at how gaming will change, looking at how fitness will be different, and of course, as well as the future of work, right? There's a huge chunk and area of Metaverse which is dedicated for work and for businesses as well. So from the positive effects, obviously, we will also go over to the bad effects and to the negative effects. So you see physical, psychological, and also sociological effects here. The first one, which is physical, evidently the environment will come into the picture as well. So as you can see, nuclear war, which is still ongoing until today, more and more countries is investing into nuclear, because then that somehow is the benchmark in terms of if you have military, if you have some form of a capability and strength in a certain area, nuclear technology, nuclear weapons are always being looked into. Cell phones, right? So there are, of course, its own negative effects physically here. A wastage of time and money, negative effects on students. You can still find it as well, as much as they are positive, yeah? Negative effects on teenagers, a communication tool for criminal purposes, cyber crimes, are the highest as it is today than it was ever before. And of course, some of you have highlighted earlier with e-waste. You see that as well towards the environment. Every time a new phone is being released, every time you're finding ways to replace your phones, some form of a waste is happening as well. Global warming. So this was highlighted by some of you earlier when you talked about climate change, right? If you have seen, again, there's several videos on YouTube. Whenever it comes to 31st December, at the end of a certain year, they would like to just come up with a recap of what has happened throughout the year. And with every single year, one common theme that you will always find as a negative effect is always looking at climate change, looking at global warming overall. Yeah, and it is evident everywhere around the world. Weather is really changing. Yeah, no one can deny that. The weather has definitely changed. The natural disasters that comes from the environment has definitely been very different in the recent years, right? So what can you contribute that to? And one of the main contributors into that is definitely technology. Yeah. I'm sorry for another typo here as well. So of course, the unstoppable cutting of trees, which is also contributing towards global warming. Pollution, so some of you highlighted this earlier, right? So when I was asking earlier what other negative effects can you think about, a lot of you highlighted these as well. So evidently another area that is definitely something that needs to be looked into when it comes to physical effects. Genetic testing towards human beings, towards people overall, there can be a lot of ethical issues when it comes to areas as such. That is why you will normally see why genetic testing around the world has not been widely accepted as of yet, only for certain purposes. Machine takeover was also something that has been discussed. This has been discussed from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, even up until today, right? The machine takeover. If everything is supposed to be impacted by robots. Every single year, you will see some research company showing in the future, what are the positions and what kind of jobs that will not exist anymore due to automation and due to robots. Yeah, so there are a lot of specific type of positions and job titles which are directly impacted negatively, whereby those positions will not be required anymore. Yeah. A quick question here. So how many hours do you think, do you feel currently that you are spending on technology overall? Yeah. So it says here, this includes your smartphone, your laptop, your PC, your console, gaming purposes, TV in general as well, right? Just to share here, it says the average American kid spends a total of 6 years during childhood in front of screens. Yeah. So your childhood is only for about 11 years, 12 years. And that is taken up, half of it is taken up just to be spent in front of screens. So, and this is as evidently shown as 8 hours per day, theoretically enough time to even visit a second school. Meaning, if you compile all the time that you spend on in front of screens, that is actually a whole other time, similar to you going to one school and you are attending a second school. Yeah. So Tina is saying, I just wonder why some countries need nuclear weapons. Like, isn't guns enough? Yeah, like I said, it becomes a measurement across, right? For you to know, for you to then measure your strength as a country in terms of nuclear weaponry that you basically own and have. All right, so I think the time is up. Okay, all right. So evidently, everyone is here. No one says less than 2 hours. 7 of you says 2 to 5 hours. 20 of you says 5 to 10 hours, which is a bit more common now. 8 to 10 hours is actually an average for a lot of people. Yeah, it's actually an average for a lot of countries as well. More than 10 hours, supposedly much lesser, probably a few years ago, but evidently we see that growing a lot now as well. So, and as an effect of all those time that you spend there, psychological, sorry about this, yeah, there's another typo here again that I missed out. Psychological effects that comes together with it. So 24/7 stress. Now the stress here is then related towards the need for you to then either be entertained, the need for you to either be furnished with certain types of information. It comes from those needs. And when you don't get them and when you don't know about them enough, this creates stress, right? FOMO, as written as evidently researched upon many years ago. This is actually categorized officially as a condition. Yeah, the Oxford Dictionary included this quite some time ago. That FOMO is an official term to be used, which is fear of missing out. Yeah. Incivility, not knowing how the community works, not knowing how to behave in the community, insecurity, and of course aspects of anxiety as well. The last point here is one of those I would always categorize them as what we call silent killers. Yeah, a lot of us live in anxiety, and the worst part is you do not know that you are living in anxiety, right? That you do not even know that you have levels of anxiety, right? Panic attacks that comes along with anxiety. Simple ones that I think some of you will probably at some point of your life, you have experienced it before. Profuse sweating, you're sweating out of nowhere. You are, your heart rate increases all of a sudden, right? So these are all after effects of you having an anxiety, or on the other hand, a panic attack, right? And this can be triggered by almost anything, and a lot of it, most of the time, has either a technological effect that contributes towards it. Okay, so this was a site that covers 19 negative effects. I've shared this in Wakelet as well on the mental health, and evidently, when you are trying to segregate all this information, psychological effects and sociological effects is the one that you see that works hand in hand. For example, increased isolation, decreased social interactions. Yeah, this can happen a lot. A lot of users today are heavily affected when it comes to when you are being asked whether do you feel like you're alone. Technology today is supposed to get you much more connected than anyone can ever be before, but aspects of isolation and decreased social interactions is happening just as much today. Yeah, frequent negative online experiences. So this is something, again, very popular on social media today, because if it is good news, if it's happy and good news, it may not share as much as negative news. What do I always connect this to? It's as simple as, I'm quite sure all of you listen to music, right? And do you want to try guessing which one is more popular, right? Sad love songs or happy love songs? You will realize that sad love songs are much more popular than happy love songs, right? So this is translated towards online experiences as well. There is a lot of negative online experiences which are there for different reasons. Yeah. Physical impacts, worse sleep, higher inactivity. A lot of you were mentioning earlier, once there is no technology, what would you do? You will sleep, right? So that obviously shows that you're not getting enough of it now just because technology exists in your life. Causes patterns, and of course, this is the other term being used, is in relation to addiction as well. Too much time online. Yeah, a lot of you highlighted about 10 hours earlier. So as you can see, overall screen time for Americans is at about 10 hours and 40 minutes. And this was easily about 4 years ago already. Yeah. So again, I think the whole idea here is, when you look into it, this can all be very evident evident effects and issues, right? Forms of isolation, you saw that earlier. Obesity as well, due to the inactivities, right? So then it contributes towards obesity. There's also whereby the likelihood of you mindlessly eating unhealthy food because of, number one, already the less exercise that you have, and on top of that, you watching a lot of your you consuming a lot of this information that you see on social media, and you tend to then move towards the types of food that you will see that it's Instagrammable, as I always like to call it, that is social media worthy for you to post online. Is always moving towards that as well. Yeah. Other effects when it comes to sociological effects is depression, as highlighted earlier, connecting back to anxiety, poor sleep habits as well. Yeah. A friend, as mentioned earlier, a friend of mine gave me this as a perspective, and I've always felt and I've always remembered it quite evidently, because of when you put it into a calculation, it gives a very different impact. So imagine this: you sleep for, which you don't even, but just listen to the calculation first. Let's say you sleep for 8 hours a day. Yeah, let's say you sleep for 8 hours a day. 8 hours out of a day, 8 out of 24 is 1/3 of the day, right? 1/3 of the day. So that is when you calculate it based on a day. If you multiply that towards a year, right? Let's say you live until you're 60 years old. How many years did you spend sleeping? So it's very logical for you to understand that if you live until you're 60 years old, you would have slept 1/3 of your life. This is considering if you do sleep 8 hours a day, right? And all of a sudden, when you look at that number, you realize, oh, wow, if I live until I'm 60 years old, 1/3 out of 60 is 20 years. I spent 20 years sleeping and the other 40 years awake. A lot of people who look at this number will always say, wow, why am I sleeping so much? I should sleep lesser. Why am I sleeping 20 years away? That is a wrong way of thinking. You should be focusing on what can you do with this 40 years that you are awake instead. Not going after the 20 years that you were sleeping and saying that I need to cut this down by half. I should only be sleeping for 10 years if I live until 60 years old. You should not be doing that because biologically, how our body works, if you want to live that long, you are supposed to sleep 1/3 of the time. Yeah, that's the only way your body will know how to recover. That's the only way your body will know how to grow. So it is important to look at it in that way, right? Because it also shows you how important it is for you to then reflect that against your day-to-day life. Yeah, sleep definitely makes a huge difference. You just need to do a quick YouTube search of sleeping and poor sleeping habits and see what kind of effects you find from that. Yeah. Increased bullying, cyberbullying is becoming more and more evident today, right? It is another silent killer, and it always goes unmentioned. It always goes something that is unaddressed enough in our society today. Yeah. Same thing goes with lack of privacy. Well, to be fair, if everything that you do is being posted online, obviously there will be some level of lack of privacy that has happened there. But again, what is the sociological effect of that? That you now when you now have lack of privacy, what happens then? Addiction, right? So there's many different types of addiction now, and the worst part that comes from addiction is that the only way that you are supposed to handle addiction is to then use other forms of either medication or other forms of therapy to then try solving issues of addiction, right? So you realize you will then be caught up with another whole area of a problem that you will need to address while trying to address the first issue that you had. Yeah. Let me just see if I wanted to ask you this question. Yeah. So have you experienced cyberbullying before? So in the chat, Hassan's takeaway is better not to sleep. Like I said, go and Google and find out. Back in the time of World War II, I think a lot of there was this experiment that was done by the Russians. Yeah, they were very interested in finding out how long can people go without sleeping. Yeah, and it's quite scary if you find out about the details of that experiment that they did. Okay, so 41 of you said no, 9 of you said yes. So again, what I'm trying to highlight here is that now there may be someone around you that you may not be aware of that is experiencing this. Not all of us treat this, or rather respond to this in the same way, right? When you put something online, someone calls you a loser, someone calls you a weirdo, or just saying stupid or disliking something that you have posted, commenting negatively on something that you have posted online. So in terms of how much of a social creature we all are, there is a need when it comes to addressing all of this. Okay. I think more importantly that comes out of this is that, so always take into account, yes, you may have not experienced cyberbullying before, but there may be people around you that have experienced it. What was your role in relation to that? How have you assisted someone who has been cyberbullied before? Okay. All right, the Russian sleep experiment. Shahmi said, there is a saying, stick and stones can break our bones, but words can break our hearts. Yeah, I'm not sure if it sounds like that, but I get your point and I get what you're trying to say. All right, so as a conclusion towards the end, when it comes to effects of technology, there must always be a way of looking at it on both sides. Yeah. Take both into consideration. And the whole idea here is that you have to realize that you have the choice. Yeah, you have the choice on what and which you want to focus on a bit more. So the usage of technology for overexploitation of resources obviously is something to be avoided. And as you can see here, the whole idea, of course, now moving forward, there's a lot of technologies which are in place, and the way technology used to work has changed, because then there is the whole idea of how moving forward and being able to preserve all this for the futures to come. Right? Use technology with control limits. I was asking earlier in terms of what would you do if you were to go 24 hours without any of your technologies. So there must be some form of control. There must be some form of a limit. Yeah. How much have you been using your devices? If that is being revealed to you, maybe you will see it a bit differently. Yeah, I used to have this app, and when I say I used to, I have probably uninstalled it. I can't remember when now, but it was an app that basically indicates to me if I have my on-screen time was going too high. So there is basically a limit of you should not go more than 6 hours, I think, or 7 hours on your devices on a daily basis. Yeah. So once you have hit that point, the application actually notifies you to then say that this is how much of screen time that you have gone past, and that you should be reducing, and so on and so forth. There are even apps that takes it a level further, whereby there must be a digital detox that you need to go through, so that to stop you from continuously using it because of the further adverse impacts that can happen. Yeah. Tech gadgets are here to help us and serve us, but of course not the other way around. It shouldn't be something that confines you towards a certain situation instead. A quick question here. What would you do to de-stress from technology? So what would you do to de-stress from technology? Oh, I just realized this is an iStock image, which I shouldn't have used. But anyway, I think you can still see the information there. So relevant one by cussing, exercising. I think that's definitely a healthier way to go with. So Wei Huan is saying sleeping is to de-stress from technology, but it sounds like most of you are not having enough of it. So that is then another issue for you to first solve and identify. Yeah, switch it off. So easier said. I hope you do it. How many? Do you do this often, Uzma?
Yes, very often.
Oh, so like throughout the day, or?
Throughout the day, yeah. And then during the 2 weeks break, I was completely off of everything, social media, internet, everything.
Wow. Okay. So throughout the day, when you switch it off, what? How long does this go on for?
It really depends. Sometimes 5 hours, sometimes 2. But I make sure that for a day at least, I do that.
Okay. Every single day, there will be at least a period that you do so.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
So another sleeping answer here. A lot of exercising answers here. Towards the end, read novels, control the time you use it. Excuse me. Read and explore around. I think a lot of you happens to be that some of you are highlighting reading now. Cooking. Seng Fong is highlighting that. Exercising, go on a stroll, just go for drinks. Sleep, exercise, take time off media. Workout. I think a lot of you will end up, by the looks of it, going towards exercising. So I hope you're not just writing and talking and mentioning it, and I hope you're already doing it, yeah? Go to my balcony and stare at the sky. Interesting point. Even though you say this, Muhammad, I'm very sure, as much as possible, unfortunately, is the very subjective statement being put here, right? You will always find a reason why you need to continue using technology, but it's very difficult to find a reason to stop using it. Believe me that. Take a shower. So Heidi, for depending on how much you use technology, it looks like you will end up taking a lot of showers throughout the day. Exercise, meditate, good one by Crit as well. Not everyone is into meditation, so I'm just going to do a quick one after this, so maybe we can try meditating together. Practice, hobbies, cook, walk outside, in person rather over text. Of course, when you can, yeah. So please don't forget COVID is still around. Sleep, actually, I can't stay away at this point. Gym, exercise, sleep, listen to favorite music. Socialize, sleep, go camping. Someone said go into the forest earlier, so maybe both of you can plan a camping session together. Exercise, reading, babysitting. Wow. So I'm not sure, Hassan, it sounds like babysitting is something you can do at demand. So I'm not sure how you are able to gain access to that, but yeah. Darren says shopping. Okay. So I hope your shopping is not necessarily window shopping and online shopping, e-shopping instead. Yeah, talk to friends and family in real life, exercising, focus on the journey and the grind, the goals. Yeah, okay. All right, awesome. I thought I had another. Okay, all right. So I'm not sure if how many of you would has done this before, or you know about the 20-20-20 rule. Yeah, and you are supposed to do this if possible every 20 minutes, if possible. Yeah, if possible every 20 minutes you're supposed to do this. So what does it mean is that every 20 minutes you take a break, and you take a break for 20 seconds. Yeah, it's only 20 seconds. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And you look at something which is about 20 feet away from you. It can be anything. I know it shows here that this is a pot and this is a plant, a potted plant in an office, for example. But you can look at anything as long as it is about 20 feet away from you. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna try this now. Let's just quickly do this. So minimize all your windows. I know you can still hear me at least. Yeah. Minimize all your windows. Look at something which is 20 feet away from you now. 20 seconds timer. All right, so I'm not starting it yet. I'm going to stop it first. So don't look at your screen now. Everyone look away, right? So I hope you do this. This is a very simple activity. Do not look at your screen now. Look at something about 20 feet away from you. Just in case you do not know what 20 feet is like, 20 feet is about 5 to 6 meters away from you. Yeah, okay. So Wei Huan says shut down your computer. Okay, all right. So look at something now, and I'm going to start the timer. All right, 1, 2, go. Don't do anything else. Just look at that. Just look at that item 20 feet away from you, and just continue looking at it. Okay, let me just quickly find someone. Oops. Let's see what the gods of the internet, who the gods of the internet decided to choose. Michelle, microphone on, please. Is this going to take very long?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So what were you looking at for that 20 seconds?
I was looking at a cupboard.
What do you notice about the cupboard?
It has a nice finish to it.
I see. Was it something you noticed before?
Not really. So it's always just a cupboard in the background.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Michelle. Next
Okay, thank you.
person. Amir, microphone on. Again, one of those times that will always.
Yes, sir. I was looking at the bag.
Sorry, you were looking at what?
There is a bag near my closet. I was looking at it.
You are looking at the bag near your closet.
Yeah.
So what do you notice about the bag?
It was not that far. Not 6 feet long or something like that.
Okay, all right. Thank you. One last person. Hong Jie.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
I was looking at tree.
You're looking at a tree. There's a tree in your house,
Not outside.
Oh, okay, outside your house. All right. Anything you notice about the tree?
Nice.
Nicer. What
Nice.
does a nice tree means?
What?
You said nice, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does a nice tree mean?
No, I just love nature. So every tree.
Every tree is nice to you. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Oh wait, I thought there's a question here. Did I not have a question here? Oh no, I don't. Okay, so we are done. We are done with the effects of technology, which happens to be your weekly task this week as well anyway. For those of you that are meeting you tomorrow, you will find out what exactly your weekly task is about. This was something I just wanted to quickly do because not just because someone highlighted meditation earlier, but I think this is something that once in a while you will need to consider just to go through a digital detox from time to time. Yeah. I would like to say whenever you can find the time, but unfortunately, I feel we will always not be able to find the time. Yeah. So let's just try doing this together for the next, not long. Yeah. I'm just going to ask you to do this for about 60 seconds. I'm going to have this running right after this. Again, you'll probably just have to listen for the cue in terms of the time is up. Yeah, this will happen for about 1 minute. I will say go, and you just need to follow this round circle that you see on the screen and follow exactly what it says. Yeah, all right. Again, I can only hope that all of you are basically doing it. I can't really check that all the 60 or 70 of you are doing it or not. So let's spend 1 minute doing this. And your time starts. Oops. And your time starts now. Okay, all right. Now this is honestly, I'm not sure how many of you find it either to be comforting for you. Does it help keep you relaxed and so on and so forth? But I feel it's something which is the simplest thing that you can do, and yet it has its long-term effects. Yeah. All right. I didn't mention it in the beginning, but I'm not sure how many of you know when you're supposed to breathe in and breathe out, it is best that you breathe in through your nose and you breathe out through your mouth. Yeah. All right. So do that for 1 minute. Start off with at least try doing it once a day, which I think is very little to ask for. Yeah. Find the time. Whenever you want to do it, right? Just set it for 1 minute. Sit down. Just do that. Sometimes, at a lot of times, due to technology, due to the various many effects of technology, we just don't happen to find the time to be calm. Yeah. I'm not necessarily promoting this. This is also the app. There's a lot of functionalities within it. Obviously, the free version doesn't give you much, but the paid version gives you much more. But there are some of it here that are just probably music that helps you to sleep. There are some of them which are activities. There are some of them which are podcasts or audio versions of certain things that we hear someone talking and speaking about something. So I think those are always quite relevant ways for you to use whenever you are faced with all these negative effects of technology. Yeah. All right. Oh, I didn't notice this from earlier. Was this over? I think this was over. Oh no, the qualifying match is on the 14th, which is tomorrow. Interesting. I wonder who was organizing this. Organized by APU G35. Anyone in class organizing this? Now I'm interested to join. Does it say only for students? All right, okay, so where was I? I was slightly distracted. So we're back to here. Okay, this is your lecture. All right. Okay, all right, so that's all for class today. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone very much. It's too late in the evening. I'm starting to slur. And I'll see all of you next week. Yeah. For the students where your tutorial is on Tuesday, I'm not seeing you because then it's a public holiday next Tuesday, but I'll see you on next Thursday for the lecture instead. Yeah. For those of you I'm seeing you tomorrow, and you are coming physically, I'll see you then in class late evening tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Sir, can you see my attendance? It is marked or not?
Can I see whether your attendance is marked or not? Hold on, yeah. Why?
Yes,
What's the problem?
Sir, internet issue.
Internet issue. All right, I think most of you are done. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I think yours is done. Yeah, yours is done.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
All right. Can I know anyone in class who's the same group with who's this Ibragimov Shahzad, or is it Shahzad? Anyone in class that is the same group with him? Anyone who's here now is in the same group with him? No? Yes? No? With the silence, I'm assuming that all of the team members have left. No, it's not here. It's in T2 then. This group. Edric, Darren, Sohan, Suban. All right, none of them are here. All right, anyway. Oh, Samuel, you're here. I just realized. I thought you won't be able to make it. All right, if there are no questions, thank you. Take care, everyone. I'll see you when I see you.